Okay, so we're ready to start our elements for this book that we're making. You can see this is my pattern. This is what I used for mine on the front. And so I was able to take these and trace it every time and make this a lot faster for myself. Okay, I did cut out, if you look at these little sections here, I did the top and the bottom. I really wanted this logo, and so I attempted to like draw over this and then put it on top and rub to like try and transfer that so I wouldn't have to draw her every time. And really, I'd probably have to draw another 7 cups to make sure that I really got that how I wanted, because sometimes it transferred and sometimes it didn't. We would do the same thing. So this is another person's. I would go ahead and pick out those details that you think would be easier, that you don't want to draw every time. So like this little section underneath here would be an easy thing to cut out. Okay, so I have a cutting board. You want to do that so you don't have a table or cut your table. Okay, so the biggest thing with an X-Acto knife is that your hand is always above. Okay, so you're going to make sure that you hold this like a pencil when you cut. You don't want to try and cut with like the blade up and down. You're holding it like this direction. Okay, so your other hand is always above that. And I'm just going to cut a section of this just right above and right below. Okay, so you can see that I cut through. And then I don't want to disconnect the top and the bottom. So I'm just going to like cut on the side and do this again. So I have just a little section that was removed. So then you can use a pencil and just trace that. Okay, so there's a little bit of it. And I kind of missed this part. Okay, and anytime if you feel like you cannot get this to work, just let me know and I'll come help you with it. I don't want you to get frustrated or try so hard and then you end up putting your hands places where you end up getting cut. Okay, so things like this are going to help. You could like cut out this Duncan part. You could cut out this section here if you're just going to trace it. So we're just trying to make this easier on ourselves so we can trace them all here. Okay, so that's up to you. If you want to draw it every time, you can do that as well, but most people have some kind of detail they cut out, so it's easier. Okay, so next thing I want you to do is just with any paper that you have in your folder, because I gave you some blank paper, we're going to write down all of these. I probably should have formatted this differently, but these are just thumbnails, okay? You just think of them as little tiny pictures, but they're really like rough pictures, okay? They don't have to be really detailed. I've like scribbled in things that I want. So I want to use lines on this one. Okay, so I just drew those real quick. I want to see the color in here, but I want to see shapes. So I drew my, this piece as a shape. For this one, I knew I just wanted to do orange and blue, but you could very well do another one over here and say, well, what would it look like? Would I rather have, you know, like purple and yellow instead? And you're trying to, you know, just make a decision. This would give you, you know, just a little bit of a visual of what you are doing first before you even get started. Okay, so you could go ahead and look at that and be like, well, which one do I like more? Okay, because you've got some ideas. And then, you know, ultimately, hey, I think this one's better. Form, I kind of drew my lid where it had form, and then I drew this side of the table. Okay. Texture, I'm thinking like this would be texture and this would be texture. So you're kind of brainstorming on what you would do. Value, I'm not going to do any color on there. And then space, You know, this is what I'm thinking, just a little bit of wood grain on the table. And I want to show that my cup is almost empty. Okay, so these are just thumbnails that kind of get you started and get you thinking. So then when you get to this part where you are working, you don't have to brainstorm and think about it. You already know what you're doing. You just have to execute it. Okay, so these are really rough. These beginning ones are pretty simple, but then, you know, sometimes the texture and the space ones can be more confusing. Okay, so it's better to just knock out the idea so then you can work and you're not just stuck staring at it later. Okay, so once you get your thumbnails done, you are going to get a large piece of paper from me. Okay, like a long skinny one. And these boxes are, okay, 4 inches wide. So you've got to make sure that you make a hash mark on the top and the bottom. So marking this at 4, right? Is that 4? Nope, there we go. Marking this at 4 on the bottom, 4 at the top. If you don't have both hash marks, you're going to have a crooked line. So you need a little mark on each side, and then you're going to be able to connect those. Okay, so you would just do that all the way down. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and label these just really little in the bottom line and shape, so then you know what you're working towards. Oops. So then you would just continue to go ahead and, you know, make these 4-inch boxes. Okay, so those would get all mapped out. The next thing would be taking your piece and using your thumbnails as kind of a reference and getting those traced on. Okay, make sure you keep this. This is super important because this is going to help you get everything else done. Okay, but those are the 3 things. You need your pattern, you need to cut out details, you need to make thumbnails, and then you can go ahead and start on the actual piece.